So the first step to creating a story map is to go to storymaps.arcgis.com. And at arcgis.com, storymaps.arcgis.com, this is where you'll find a few of those links as well. There are some resources you can have a browse through. You can have a look at the overview of StoryMaps, but you just click on the sign in. And so I'm going to use my Google account. Kia ora, Bryn. Okay, so this is just on the free account. You don't need the trial account. You don't need any kind of other type of account to be able to do basic story maps. There are a couple of differences, but everything that I'm going to show you, you can do on the free account. So the first thing you do is you go new story. Now what I'm going to try and do is keep an eye on this getting started with story maps so that you also have a reference page as well. Excuse me. So we go launching Story Builder. So the first thing is to give it a title, and in this case I'm going to call it my first story map. Actually, no, that'll do for now. So this is just going to show you the technical parts of how to create a story map. The narrative is not going to be particularly good in this one. We can add a subtitle here, add a subtitle, and this is how we can use this tool. And you can also add a cover image or a video to the front. So I'm just going to browse for a picture. Let's see, what have we got here? This one I'll do. Oh, it's Gisborne. And we can, there are a couple of options that we can do, but we'll just leave that as that for now. Now, as we come down, we've done our cover. Come down, okay, title, we've added the title, building the narrative. Okay, so this is the key part here. This is where you start telling the story. And you can just keep typing like in a Word document, but the best thing here is to think of you're telling a story. So in fact, before you even get to this point, you probably want to have like a 1 or 2 page Word document that has a series of sentences, and those sentences will sort of help build your narrative. And then what you're doing with the story map is you're presenting that story, and you're using maps, using images, using video, audio, whatever is most suitable to tell your story with. But on this little plus button, this is something you'll become very familiar with. You can add text, so just normal as you would in an email or Word document. You can add a button, and this is that the trick that I want to suggest is this is what they call the call to action button. So if you wanted to, like in my story map that I shared with you, the intent here is not to actually look at this, but to click away from it. So I wanted to make sure that each of those were going to pop up into a new tab, which they do. But if I didn't want people to click away from the story, then I might just put that only one link at the bottom. Separator is basically a straight line. Map, there are a couple of different types of maps. So you can add 2D maps like the land block map we did. You can add 3D maps like the place-to-place fly-through that we did. And there's also a new type of map that I'm going to show you today, which is how to draw a very, very simple, what they call express map. You can add an image or a photo, and this can be a photo, this can be a screen capture, this can be an exported map. Doesn't have to be a photo. You can add a video, and you can, I think you can upload the video in the free account, or you can link to somewhere like YouTube if you prefer to store your videos outside of the story map, which is also something to be aware of, is if you're linking to alternative locations and sites, to make sure that those aren't going to be deleted accidentally or accidentally on purpose at any point. Now here's a couple of the gotchas. With the free account, we can't add the audio. So coming to probably 2021, we'll be looking at how to, if you're a conservation group, how to connect up with the GIS and conservation group. There's also personal accounts, there's non-profit accounts, and of course there's also commercial accounts. For those of you who signed up for the there's also the Learning ArcGIS account. I think you'll be able to do that with that one, but only for the duration of that Learning ArcGIS account. And the other trick is you can't embed other images. So this one I had to do on my Lynn's account, StoryMap, because all of these are embedded. But there are many different ways you can work around that just by linking to other things. You can do a swipe. So a swipe is quite neat when you're doing historical imagery, for example. If you want to show, here's an aerial photo from this point in time versus a topo map or a different type of aerial photo. So just as you might with a blog, you can add a map, you can add an image, you can add a video, you can add a swipe. You can also add a slideshow. So for those of you, if any of you have used any of the common blogging platforms, and even with Facebook pages, you can add several images to create a slideshow. Just check in on the chat there. Can we let viewers see an old document? Yes. So if you've got a copy of that document somewhere, then yes, you can either add it to the map or certainly link to it as well. What you might be able to do is, if you are working with the free account like I am at the moment, is you can take a screen capture and add that in there as an image, or you can save it out, or you can link to it. So there's lots of different ways to do it. So the slideshow is where you go to the left and right. So these are this is the one to be wary of, is that it is quite cool, and I use them a lot in the climate change story maps. If you've seen those ones, they're in the StoryMaps links. The only catch is you've got to manually swipe sideways, and if you're looking on a cell phone looking at a story map, just swiping up with your thumb is quite comfortable and easy, but it's the moment you've got to stop and remember to go sideways. My thinking is it's not going to be that common for people to stop there and swipe sideways unless they're really into it. Another one is called the sidecar, and this is kind of like a slideshow, but it's a downward scrolling one, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. And then the map tour, which you've seen already a couple of examples where we've gone from place to place with an image for each one. Okay, so let's come up here and add one of each of all these different items. So the first one is we're adding some text. And here is where our narrative goes. And once you've put the text in there, you can actually change it to by selecting it and clicking on it. So select by, what am I doing here? Triple click, double click, double click. And I can change that to a heading. Double click, triple click, and I can change it to a subheading or a normal paragraph. So paragraph is normal text. Large paragraph, so it's kind of like if I want to emphasize a particular sentence. I can also have a bulleted list. I can have a numbered list. And the last one is a quote. And quotes come out quite well. The unfortunate thing is there's not a way yet to insert like you do with, say, Wikipedia, where you have a little one in it, like a reference to the credits at the bottom. So you can also have credits at the bottom here. So this is a good way to reference images that you might have used off some of the free websites like Unsplash, Pixabay. There's a bunch of places where you can get images. You can also add the credits into the images themselves in the properties. Okay, so there's, let's change that back to a heading, because there's a reason why I want to have that there for later. And we can have a button. If we want a button, links to the report or links to the website, something like that. We can have a separator, so it sort of leaves a gap, and then we can carry on here. Let's add some more text. And here comes the maps. Okay, so the next part is the map part. So let me show you how to just embed an example map. So let's go and pick a 3D map in this case, because 3D works just as good as 2D. It's got some little marae on there, and I go placing. And here's my 3D map embedded in my StoryMap on the free account. And this is interactive, so I can go in there and I can click on one of these wharanui and I get information here. Now this, if you remember from our 2D map exercise, I showed you how to add data like Māori land court blocks. So to add marae, what I've done there is I've gone add data in 3D. That's in 3D, add data. And that data set is from TPK and it's called layer_marae. So if you go add data from ArcGIS Online, layer_marae will show you all the marae, and it also has the names of the wharanui and sometimes the wharekai too, I think. Oh no, just wharanui. There we go. Okay, so there are different ways that we can display this. We can go in there and we can edit it. So I'm going to go cancel. And remember, we just went add maps before to get here. We can float, they call float. So that will put it in a small thing, and we can continue telling our story here. And let's go tung, 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 tung. So that's quite good if you've got about that much text. If you've got that much text, it kind of starts to come over here on the left. So what I'd suggest there is just to go to there and then block it off, come down like that. You can have it in line, so in line with all the rest of your content, like this. You can have it slightly larger, like it did when it first arrived, or you can have it full screen, like this, so it's full width. Okay, this one I'd only really use if you've got a really good map with engaging content, because most people are going to just sort of look at the map like this and carry on looking at the rest of your story, unless it's something that you instruct them to click here and start doing things. So you can also have alternative text, and that's useful for screen readers. I know a lot of people have vision issues, and so they will look at the screen incredibly large, and when they hover over that, alternative text comes up. It just makes it a bit more accessible. Okay, let's come down here and add the next part, which is the map. And in this case, I'm going to go new Express Map. So Express Map is kind of like a hand-drawn quick map that you can put into any story map. The trick is it's only going to exist within that story map. You can't save it out yet to anywhere else. So your drawn features will appear here. So at the moment we've got a grey map, and you can see up the top here we've got a selection, we've got do, undo, we've got add pins, add numbers, so we can add numbered points, we can add just a regular pin, we can draw a line or an area, we can draw shapes, we can add some text, or we can also draw an arrow. And these arrows are quite useful, I found. So let me just show you this one example, an arrow. So I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to grab the middle of the arrow and curve it like this. So if you're doing things like describing a journey, the waka started here, went past here, and carried on around here. Then the catch is you've only got that one handle that you can do, but you can change the line, you can change the color, you can have custom colors as well. And if we come over here, so that was just adding a line, simple line. Over here on the little settings cog, we can look at allow map navigation. So say we just wanted this picture with nothing else on here, then we can just have that. We can turn that off. So it won't permit the viewer to change or pan with the map. I'll just move my arrow, but it won't allow the viewer to do this. If there is something relevant for people on their mobile phone, you know, if you're talking about you put a story map out there and you want to encourage people to access a story map while they're out as part of the story. Maybe it's a journey, maybe they're going to visit a site and you want them to be able to locate where they are, then you can turn on this current location here as well, and it adds that little GPS button. So when I click this, it's going to ask to allow for my location, and it's going to say I'm wherever I am in Christchurch, which I'm not. I'm in Wellington today. Legend. So if you want to have a list of a legend in here, and also if you're putting a lot of points in here, like a lot of data, like dozens, then when you zoom out a bit, it will let you group them up. That's what I'm pretty sure that one is. I haven't used it myself yet. Now there's also some alternative base maps that you can use here. These are just out of the box. At the moment you can see we've got this what's called a human geography light, so it has just a bunch of reference features. We can also have a satellite image, and of course then once you've done that you might change the color of your annotation. Let's see, this one's called Canvas Light. We can also have Canvas Dark. Oh, and I just want to point out this one here, which I think is quite cool. It's called the Community Base Map. It kind of has a quite neat color scheme to it. Excuse me. And again, if I was using that one, I might change the color scheme, and you can set different custom colors there as well. Excuse me, this one got a... Okay, so that is our, let's go and add a couple of pins as well. Adding a pin, we can click on this pin and we come back over on the left here, and we can actually add an image to the pin as well. Let's just borrow that Gisborne picture again. We're going to Gisborne. There we go. Change our map like this. And let's add some starting location. This describes our journey. And don't forget to press done. If you don't press done, it doesn't retain that edit, and it doesn't look like it. Oh yeah, it has there. Okay, so go done, and we can see starting location is what we typed in, and it's changed there. And when you hover over it, it does this really neat thing, has the pop-up of the image as well. Okay, and we go done. So there's one way to add a map. Here's a second way to add a map. So this is quite a neat way if you don't have an existing map that you want to use, but you still want to have an interactive map. So you can add a 3D interactive map, and you can add a 2D interactive map, or just a very quick sketch map. Let's carry on here. So this is how we would add an image. So we've done map a couple of goes at maps. Let's add image. Browse my files. Grab our Gisborne one again, add that in there, and so we can add a caption. We can come in here and we can add alternative text, and anytime you're using images that you haven't taken yourself, of course you want to put it in the credits. It's always polite to reference others' material. Okay, so that's adding an image. Let's go and add a video. Don't know if I have any videos in my downloads. Let's see. No, nothing in there yet. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll go to YouTube, and we'll just, hopefully Trevor Noah will turn up. Here we go. Oh, what have we got here? 8 hours of beautiful birds. That'll do. Let's go copy video URL. Pause that. Come back here and go. You can upload it, or you can go link, and we go add. and there's our video. And once again, we can change it to just a little, actually this lets us put it in this format. We can have it this style. What's this one here? This was on the side, so then we can carry on with our story. This one is aligned with the rest of our content. You can see the alignment there. We can have it slightly larger, or we can have it full screen. Okay, so I'd recommend generally going with this kind. If people want to watch it full screen, most people know that once you've pressed play, you can go full screen here. Okay, nearly there. Let's see what else is here. Slideshow. Slideshow, sidecar, and map tour. Actually, we might come back to these ones, but what I want to do is, I think we'll park this bit till next week. I'm just cautious of the time. I want to show you what this map tour looks like though. If we go add map tour, what we can do is we can start with an empty tour, or we can upload photos. And I'm just going to flick over to our StoryMaps links to show you what happens when you add photos. This one here, I had a bunch of 17 photos, and I wanted to see what happens when I'm using a free account and adding them into create a map tour. So here's here are the photos. You can access them here, and just while I'm showing you, I'm going to download them. Download. This was up Whenua track. Okay, so hopefully that's going to download somewhere. Go. And so as we come down, we uploaded these 17 photos, and it automatically picks up the GPS location from the cell phone. And so it puts them into whatever order, whether it's by date or by file name. And so having the image here being the focus, because I wanted to focus on the image, not so much the map. Over here I've got a little about for each one, and as I scroll through, you can see that they're linking up names, numbers with icons on the map. These are automatically placed there, and as I scroll through, and these were just some example photos. Anyone, you're welcome to use these for having a to-do with. This is called a map tour. And so that one was, we're just on this one here, create a map tour. Yes, upload photos. So this is the, I'm just going to scroll through very quickly now to the end. Okay, exact same images, but slightly different style. Add another map tour in the same map tour, same images, different style, same tool, just different option. And in this case, it's got a small image with a large map. And as you scroll through, it pans to each of those locations, like this. And so you can see I've got headings, and then the other trick that I noticed here was while I was doing this is I saw, okay, why can't I see the number 7 icon? It was because the number 6 icon was right over the top of it in exactly the same location. And if I just point out to you just down here as well, when you are using a GPS in a cell phone, you can see those 4 pins there are exactly the same spacing and in a very straight line. So the reason for that is when your phone tags your photo with a GPS location, it has a certain number of decimal places that it will round the GPS to. So a GPS latitude, longitude with say 7 decimal places will get you to within 1 centimeter. But to me, I would suspect those GPS have only got, those tags have only got maybe 3, maybe 4 decimal places. And so what that means is there's not enough detail there to put them exactly where they are. So instead it's sort of, if you ever see these kind of grid-like patterns, that's probably to do with the number of decimal places in your GPS tag. I've got some stuff coming up for you too on coordinates, how to use coordinates, different things. So you can see here, as I've zoomed in as well, it's retaining that zoom scale. And I can click on any of these images and it will come up to full screen. So that's Map Tour, just two different ways to show the same thing. And also the slideshow. Here's the same images, but I'm just scrolling down, and instead of anything happening, I say, okay, I've got to go sideways. So you can see this is nice to look at, but perhaps from a user experience, and at the end there I've put a video, it's not as intuitive as just keep scrolling until you get to the bottom. Okay, let's come back to our first one. So that was a fairly quick tour through some of the basic functions of creating story maps. Now you can do these now. There's the slideshow that you just saw going sideways. The sidecar, I'm going to save that one until next time because I want to show you how to hook that up with a 3D and go from place to place to place. And then the map tour, this is what we were just looking at for the Pōniho track, where there's two options here. If we go map tour, we can go start with an empty tour and we can have it map focused, or we can have it image focused. Okay, so what have we looked at this morning? Everything is in this main story map that I've shared with you earlier. tinyurl.com storylinks 24, and I'll change that to reflect that. Here is the Getting Started with ArcGIS Story Map. So this is going to take you through everything that we've gone through just now and more. There's also some other useful materials here. What I'd suggest is, it's kind of with story maps, to make a really good story map, you've actually got to write the story first. The temptation will be to start creating your story, and you should have a tutu, but know that that story is the ones that I've shown you. They're kind of just to see what's possible. You'll want to start by writing your story and getting content to support it, rather than starting in the story maps tool and sort of creating it on the fly. It's not the ideal way. Here are some really good examples. There's the Voices of the Grand Canyon. There's some environmental ones. The River Roads of India is actually quite interesting because it focuses on using video. The sounds one of the Wild West, and of course, unfortunately with sounds, you can embed video with sounds, but you can't embed MP3, is what I'm meaning by the difference between the free and the organizational account. There's some others there. There's the TPK ones. These are some that we created back in February on climate change. They're all based on Aotearoa. Here is that resource kite. Well, here's an earlier version of that resource kite in our Google Drive, and this one is as a story map with a kind of a. You can imagine why I picked this image. It's kind of there, engaging, nice to look at. Says, hey, this is interesting, but actually it's a pretty boring looking story map. It's more just used instead of a Word document. Here's that Whanganui Awa one in 3D. So you can click on that. And this one is what we're going to look at next week, of how to go from place to place to place. So this is just showing you some examples here, some imagery, some music in there, some photos, and this is that zoom in place to place to place one. Oh, kia ora, Kushla. And so here we've got photos, locations, and as you scroll through, and of course the map is interactive as well. You can stop at any point and have a look around. What else we got here? A bit of fun there with Darth Vader and story maps, and then exploring the world of storytelling. So looking at all the other story maps through the gallery.